are getting out our crystal ball to predict the media trends and happenings for 2020. Our areas include the local news scene, network and cable, and of course, social media. First up, local news, and I'm going to go first. So I'm predicting that something's going to give over at NBC 10 and NECN. You can't keep two all-news operations going and side by side and conflicting, and one thing or the other is going to have to go, and my guess is it's going to be NECN. They're going to have to turn it into something different. Already we're seeing a lot more infomercials on that station. My guess is it's going to become all infomercials or something else. It can't continue this way. Even though they're both fine products, by the way. I want to emphasize that. I tune to them with some regularity. It's not that it's duplicating and repetitive resources.
I'm not sure why you say it's duplicative, because NBC 10
exactly
has all of the network programming.
All the same people.
Well, okay, I know, but NBC has all of the NBC programming.
Then you don't need NECN.
I mean, Channel 7 has newscasts every hour, it seems, so that gets in the way, too.
I would say that, in the past, when there was NECN alone, they focused more locally, and they still can. So there can be differentiation, and where they excel on NECN and making themselves separate is in that way.
Sticking to my prediction.
Okay.
I like the idea of a news outlet for New England, not just for Boston, not just for Massachusetts, but for New England. And I actually have relatives in almost every state of New England.
Nobody watches it.
All my
Nobody
relatives watch
watches
New England cable news, and it's. I don't know. I like the idea of it, but who knows? You might be right.
All right. Next up for local, Jennifer.
So my prediction, I don't know if it'll happen within the next year, but I think it's going to happen eventually, is that the Boston Herald will go completely online. I don't think that this town can support two print operations. Who knows if it can barely support one without some sort of funding from a nonprofit organization.
Is that a bad thing, though?
No, it's not. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. I'm just predicting that it'll happen sooner than we think.
From a pure business point of view, I think the Herald would be better off dumping the website and keeping the print edition.
Really?
It's fundamentally a print product. It's a tabloid.
They've been commuter product.
They've been
read it on the train.
And there's. I know that the problem is people aren't reading it on the subway anymore.
Yeah.
But it's something you can grab on your way to work. I don't think that they've had much of any success in selling digital subscriptions. I do think that they might have some success if they promoted it in getting people to pick up the tabloid.
Yeah, I think when digital first came in, I don't know that they understand, speaking of culture, the cultural heritage of having the Herald in that tabloid shape and what that represented. So I think there is space to exploit that. But to your point, Dan, about digital first, they're not really interested in promoting anything. So.
All right, Dan, you've got another one.
Speaking of digital first, I will predict that Alden Global Capital, the owners of the chain formerly known as Digital First, are finally going to say we've squeezed as much money as we can out of our papers and we're going to get rid of them. This will cast adrift papers like the Herald, the Lowell Sun, the Fitchburg Sentinel. That doesn't mean they're going to go out of business. I hope that a nonprofit might come along and pick them up. After Alden Global Capital moves away from the scene, we may all be better off.
So I noticed nobody has mentioned the Boston Globe in local discussions. Does anybody think that's going to go all digital, or any big changes there?
No. I think, it's the regional paper, basically, and I think somebody will always be there to kind of prop it up. The reality is these papers aren't profitable, right? I mean, you'll always have the big three, the Washington Post, the New York Times,
Los Angeles Times.
The Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. You'll always have them because their corporate parents are diversified, and, the New York Times makes all its money from real estate. They don't make their money from the paper. So
even the Saturday edition will stay?
I think so.
The Globe announced a year ago that it's profitable. I haven't heard anything to the contrary since then.